Hey guys, what's up? It's Al. It's Friday. That means that we've got a great NBA slate of action on Draftkings tonight. We're going to go over some lineup possibilities for your studs, your stars, your scrubs. We have a 7-game slate for Friday's DFS NBA, and I'm going to break some of it down for you. We're going to look at the top plays, how I think that they rate versus their salary. We're going to take a look at a few value plays that are going to allow you to fit the studs of your choosing in there. What I usually do on these videos is I take a look at 3 plays that are under 6K that you're going to need in your lineups. I take 2 guys that are 7K or above to plug them in. So I go with a stars and scrubs approach as best I can. Sometimes it's a mid-range and stars approach based on what we have here in the morning. It is 8 a.m. on the West Coast. So we are, 6 hours before lock time? The biggest tip that I can give you for NBA if you want to be successful, make sure you're at your lock station 30 minutes or your workstation 30 minutes before lock time, because NBA can change at the drop of a dime. Everything can just completely shift. The landscape of that night's slate can change. The value can open up in a heartbeat. And it can happen about 5 minutes before lock. So if you're at your workstation 30 minutes before, that allows you to digest all the news that's happened throughout the day and be ready to be nimble and pivot in that last 30 minutes if something does change the landscape of that night. Thank you for being here for this video. If you're new, I'd love to see you back. Click that subscribe button. Make sure you ring the notifications bell so that you can get an email or a notification or right there in your YouTube inbox letting you know when I've produced new NBA or NFL material so that you guys can digest it to help you build lineups on DraftKings. Make sure you click like on this video. It's got a short shelf life, maybe about 5-6 hours before it's completely obsolete. Once the slate tips off, this video is pretty much dead. So why don't we just get to it so I can get it posted as soon as possible. Get over here. Find DraftKings. There we go. As I said, a little sick this morning. Kind of sucks. My throat kind of hurts a little bit. I'm going to fight through it. 7 games on the slate. We got some biggest superstars in the NBA out there, starting with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has been a rebounding machine earlier in the season, and how sustainable it is over the course of a month or 2 months or a whole season, we'll see. But he is posting career high rebound numbers, no less than 15 rebounds in any one game this season. Everything else seems right on par for what he's done. Did have 10 assists and the triple-double in his last game, posting an 80-plus point DraftKings night against Philly. And he's kind of priced for it now. At 11.7 for Giannis Antetokounmpo, that is kind of a price where now he has to have a 60-plus point night. If he puts up 48 points, that's not even close to good enough at this salary, right? If you have a 10K player and he posts a 48, 51 point night, did he smash? No. But does he hurt you? He probably doesn't. But at 11.7, if Giannis puts up a 50-point night, which he hasn't done in his defense, he has not put up a 48 to 52-point night yet this season, right? So I think he's priced appropriately, but there's danger inherent in both his salary at 11.7 and Anthony Davis's salary at 11.6. Again, has to post a 60-something plus night for you to be satisfied with this salary. Now, should some more value open up, and there is good value on tonight's slate at the mid-range and at the very low end, for us to be able to fit these guys, you can get them into a cash game lineup if you're playing single-entry tournament, or if you just want to work them into tournament allocations. If I'm going to play 50 or 100 lineups tonight, I'm probably going to have Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo in my tournament allocation this evening. I'm not going to completely fade them. But I like the way that lineups look, and the few that I've built so far, played around with so far, that don't have them, as strange as that seems. Now, again, if more value opens up, and I've got 3 players that are sub 4K that I'm very confident that they have a 20-point plus 20 to 30-point outlook for this evening, then all of a sudden, yeah, I'll just take those guys and I'll hope for the 70 plus, 80 plus point game out of Anthony Davis, because more likely that somebody like Giannis or Anthony Davis ends up with 80 points than pretty much anybody else on the slate. Looking at a couple of guys that are lower. Harden's out. Paul is back for this evening, so we're going to see some value has come out on the Rockets. Steph Curry coming off of a monster game himself at 10-2. These games are not as prevalent as they used to be. It's amazing when they do happen. Steph Curry was on fire the other night with 11 three-pointers on 16 attempts. But as I said, look, 67 DraftKings points for that ridiculous night. 15 of 24 from the field when you're shooting 16 three-pointers is absurd. And that's why the guys that stuff the stat sheet in every other column, rebounds with Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo, block shots, steals, and assists, are the guys that can reach up to 80. Guys that have triple-double capabilities reach up to 80. Kevin Durant also had a sick night the other night and went overshadowed, 13 of 18 from the field for 53 DraftKings points. Kawhi Leonard has been somebody that we've been riding. I've talked to you guys about being really sensitive about pricing. Kawhi can get up over 50, but can also have these nights where he has 37 or 43. Love him in the 8Ks. 9,300 is reaching a point where I have to be a little bit more price sensitive with somebody like Kawhi, but there are other players in this range that we do like. Chris Paul definitely sees a massive bump in his output with the Rockets when James is out. You know, when Harden is not playing, Chris Paul sees a massive bump in his usage and his assist percentage. He gets to play that primary point guard role for the entirety of the game. The main ball handler for Houston in MDA's system has been a gold mine since Steve Nash, since Jeremy Lin, so whoever's playing that role. And he usually splits it with Harden this season. The one season that Harden was alone, he posted just ridiculous numbers. Now him and Paul kind of split that role. They both post great numbers, but on a game-to-game basis, if one of them is out, the other one typically takes a massive step forward in terms of usage rate. John Wall playing against Sacramento, who's been essentially the giving tree and is only 8,500. His price has come down from a peak of 89 so far this year down to 85, which is extremely palatable based on his skill set and what he can do. Has not had a double-double yet this year. That may be coming this evening. And then a bunch of guys down 8K, 7K. So let's look at a couple of the value plays and see who we want to go after. The first one, Wendell Carter is still playing 30-plus minutes and is still only 4,300, and he allows me to get everything else that I want and need. So as long as he's going to be playing the minutes that he's going to be playing, 30-plus minutes, minutes equals money, guys, I want to plug Wendell Carter into my lineups. And the second value play that I'm going to look for, also coming from the Bills, or from the Bulls. God, I'm still in football mode, you know? I can't help it. I call umpires referees at this point of the baseball season. It's the World Series. I'm still calling umpire. Look at what the referee did. No, it's an umpire. Yep. So locked into football. This down game here against Charlotte still had 30 fantasy points. Down game in terms of his shots. He is going to get shots up. Right? This is what he is on this team to do. Doesn't really defend well. Had a few knee surgeries at this point. But the minutes that he's getting, the salaries that he's at, and the upside here, to me, is tremendous for the price. I'll take Jabari and plug him in. We mentioned already that the beard is out, giving me Gerald Green. Let's plug him in at shooting guard. Somebody's going to have to score. Again, when one of these two guys is out, whether it's Chris Paul or whether it is James Harden, Gerald Green tends to take a massive step forward in terms of his usage and his amount of shots. Number one correlation between real life and daily fantasy or regular fantasy scoring is the ability to score the ball. He is going to get shots. I expect him to get at least 10 this evening. He should play in the top, I don't know, let's give him a wide range. 25 to 32 minutes this evening, right? So wide, I usually pick like a 2-minute range. I'm going to give him a 7-minute range here. If he plays that amount of time, he's going to get a bunch of shots. If he gets a bunch of shots, he should be able to reach value. At 3,400, we're looking for like 18 to 21 fantasy points out of him, which is well within his range, especially based on the fact that his best asset, Gerald Green, is his ability to score the rock. So he's going to have to pick up some of the scoring load with as much as James Harden carries on a night-to-night basis. At 3,400, with the quick injury that all of a sudden yesterday, James Harden appears to be doubtful for this evening's game. Now, if Harden suddenly makes a Wolverine-like recovery and is going to play, I'm probably not going to want to play Gerald Green. But as it sits right now at 8 in the morning, this is where I want to go for my third value. That leaves us a lot of money left on the table, 7,300. I mentioned the first player already that I want to go with, and it's going to be John Wall. Now, essentially, I'm going to plug him in at point guard, but I'm going to assume that you're going to have players playing before him because, as you see, they're the last game of the night. Latest game to tip off. which means that you're not going to want to have John Wall in your point guard spot unless you have, well, unless everybody else is from that game that's down here in your guard or your utility. So I'm going to plug him in down here in the utility spot, assuming that we're going to have players that are playing in front of him. The reason that you want to do this is because DraftKings has late swap. Okay? So if you're playing head-to-heads and you're playing against somebody else and you have, let's say you're 5 points behind them, right? Going into that last game. You're like, you know what? I've done the math. I can add up the salaries that I see for them. I know that they've got John Wall remaining. You're going to have to pivot to somebody else, right? So you have to leave yourself that option. And if you put him in your guard spot, I mean, if you just have to, then you just do that, right? But if you put him in your point guard spot, you're only able to pick another point guard from that game. If you have him in your utility, you can pick anybody else on this list. You can slide Bradley Beal in there. And at least, you know, does Wall project for more points than Bradley Beal? Of course. But if you're already losing by 5 or 10 points and you both have John Wall, you have zero chance of winning that game, that head-to-head game. If you pivot to Bradley Beal in that situation, you know, this is a situational late swap. If you pivot to Bradley Beal in that late swap possibility, you at least give yourself a chance that if Bradley Beal outscores John Wall by 10 points, and it could happen, it has happened, it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities of things that, you know, are possible in that game, then you give yourself the opportunity at least, right, to pass that guy and win that head-to-head. So I'm going to plug him down here in the utility spot. So he's a top play for me here. I know that there's going to be a lot of steam this evening for Karl Anthony Towns. Playing a bunch of minutes, getting a bunch of shots. The question is, does he have the confidence? You know, he's up and down. He had a bad night the other night. He kind of asked out the game. Against Milwaukee, could this be the spot? I think he's going to be very popular. I think we might see a bounce back game from him. But you know what? I just want Chris Paul. I'm just going to plug in Chris Paul, and I'm going to let the rest sort itself out. Coming back, he's had a couple of games off because of the Rondo Rousey incident with the Lakers. That's going to be my 5. I'm going to roll with a couple of point guards. I'm going to go with some cheap value that we can find our way through here. It still leaves us with $6,300 per player to go with. If more value opens up on the slate, that allows us to plug in maybe one more stud, and you could possibly get up to one of the Anthony Davis or Giannis Antetokounmpo spots. If that's the route that you want to go, but mid-range looks real tasty tonight, and that's kind of probably where I think that lineups are going to sit, at least in terms of cash games, and probably, if people can, they'll plug in one of those studs. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Click like on this video. I will be on stream later today with the hour-long question and answer right on Twitch. Links are down below for that and all my other socials. I'm also live on Sunday morning, the last 45 minutes before kickoff. Also on Twitch for the Anti-Tinkercast. The chat there is always locked to subscribers only. So get on over there and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.